Hi everyone, my name is Yuan Lin. I'm your clinical teaching assistant for this course. I'll be happy to give you the debriefing for the practice round 2. So before that, I want to just let you guys know that I have taken this course, strategic management with Dr. Parnell before, and for this video, I'm going to just show you some of the tips, also the things you need to pay attention in stress sim. So when I first taking stress capstone, the stress sim, I did a lot of research online. I mean, some of the devices are good, but some of them are not really. So, but for you to get to know capstone, capstone more, I would recommend you to go to the help and resources. Like there's a button in the Stretch capstone that you can find the user's guide. There are a couple of videos talking about how to make decisions like finance, R&Ds, and those are very, very good resources. And I hope you all to read the students or user members guide with your team members carefully, then you will be able to understand the game much better. So this is a very exciting and challenging project, I would say, because just imagine that you are running a company. There are so many aspects that you need to pay attention. For example, the production, the promotion, how much marketing you want to spend, also managing the employee. Do you want to add second shift, things like that. So without further ado, let me go through the report with you guys. So while you we're going through together, you should be able to see that how I analyze each teams, and then these are the techniques you guys should be able to learn while in this video. In your future team meetings, please just go through like what I did with you guys, so you get better idea of what your team need to focus on. At the same time, you can find some of your competitors what they are doing. So at first you can see the this section is very important to give you the general idea of the what are the teams are doing and the general information here, like ROS, ROA, ROE. So ROS is return on sales, ROA return on assets, ROS return on equity. If your team have the negative rate on any of these rates, your team need to pay much attention, because most likely your team may run into emergency loan if you have a negative rate of those three very important indicators, right? Okay, as we mentioned before, the some some of the team like getting to emergency loan. What is the emergency loan? So when teams get into emergency loan, it's because the company run out of the cash, and then in that case, the actually Capstone systematically just have the emergency loan kick in. But this typical problem, why teams run into emergency loan, there are mostly two categories. First one is because your team may have excessive inventory, and about 70% of the teams run into emergency loan because of this reason. So if there's excessive inventory, try and determine why with your team members. Is it because the sales forecast is too high, or was it a matter of the poor product? Please pay attention and compare the product on the managed market segment analysis. Later, I'm going to share with you guys. Or is it because unfunded capacity and automation purchase? Sometimes a company make a big investment in plant but forgot to raise the money, and about 25% of the teams get into emergency loan fall into this category. So again, if your team are in the emergency loan, make sure you get together with your team and um, uh, find out the reason why, and then make policies or generate ideas to cover that. So just remember that emergency loans interest rate is extremely high. That is 7.5% higher than the current debt. And but don't panic if your team get into emergency loan. Just try to find out why, and get together with your team, and then um, save, do have more profit, sales more, and then to cover this emergency loan. So as you can see, here I also point out the contribution margin. So for the contribution margin, a good minimum benchmark is about 30%. So 30%. So I see there's one team, two teams, about 4 or 5, yeah, very close. Those teams, if contribution margin is below 30, then your team should consider reducing the cost of goods or raising its price. So maybe your price is too low, so your contribution margin is slightly lower. So those are the areas your team need to check into. So if the price are too low, you need to check the income statement in the company's annual report, and then the price must be set high enough to allow the reasonable revenue to come in, right? Here I also point out the sales. So if you look at the sales, I want to point out Team Hopper have the most sales. Usually, if teams have more sales, that means they have more market share. So let's take a look at the page number 2 here. As I mentioned before, you can see Team Hopper, they have most sales, and compared to other teams, this team get the most market share. So if you want to increase market share, then you need to make sure you increase your sales. Compared to practice round 1, you can see that in practice round 1 that most of the teams are making profit, but in this round you can see Team Botwing, Chester, Ferris, and Jasper, your team need to pay very close attention because your team is not making profit. Okay. So now next one, in this page, stock and bond. So for the stock and bond, I want to point out a couple things. First is the book value. So the book value will climb if the management keeps the profit as retained earning. That means if your team is profitable, then definitely your book value will increase a little bit more. But EPS is earnings per share. It's just indicating how well your companies will do. See, some of the teams have positive numbers, some of them have negative number. That because your earning per share is going up or down. Now, dividend. I want to put dividend is part of the is a way to pay to your stakeholders if you making profit. And here I want to point out the two teams, that Team Hopper and Jasper. They are start already giving some dividend to their stakeholders. Is it a good idea? Yes, it is, but it can be, your team can be in danger if your team is not in good shape or is not really profitable. So you can discuss with your team member whether you want to provide a dividend to the customer, to shareholder, stakeholder or not. But if your team is not in profit, I would recommend maybe wait a little bit. Okay. Now, in the financial summary, it has a couple of statements that your team need to pay attention. So financial summary, first the cash flow statement. Cash flow statement indicate the movement of cash through the organization, including operating, investing, and financing activities. So the annual report of cash flow statement It shows the change in the amount of cash from the previous year. So your cash flow statement indicate the expected changes at the end of the upcoming year. And then here I want to point out a couple of things. First is depreciation. You can see that your company is actually paying huge amount of money every year for the depreciation. Why? Because the um, uh, equipment and things or plants that you guys invest in actually depreciate every year. So when you make productions, you have to think about every year your company is losing money just for the depreciation. Okay, next is the inventory. You can see that most of the teams have stock up, right? Um, so make sure that you know if you have too much inventory, it's gonna cost you a lot of money to store them. So that's why some of the team get into emergency loan. You need to make sure to have a better projection, to have a very close that if you can sold out everything and have a little bit left. So we all can see that team Airy have inventory 0 and also Arvan. Those two teams did a very good job that they don't have any stock up. But is it necessarily very good? Mm, Actually not, because if you have stock up like 0, you are not paying any inventory. Um that means you actually other teams will take away some of the product that you guys probably potentially can sell in your company. So again, good projection is very important. Okay, so and also you can see here net profit. Here I highlight why it's important is because in the balance scorecard, they measure 4 categories like a financial, customer, internal business process, and learning and growth. So for the financial part, it's including the profitability. That's why you guys need to pay close attention to how much profit you guys are making. All right, we go to the next page is the product analysis. And uh, compared to this round to last round, I'm very glad to see some of the teams that did a very good job utilizing your capacity. But here I want to point out 3 teams: Team Fairies, Orion, and Jasper. You guys need to pay a little bit attention because see, you still have this much, capacity left, but potentially you guys did not fully use. And remember, I mentioned before, if every year your plant, your equipment depreciate, right? If you are not fully utilize your capacity, then it will depreciate. That means there will be negative cash flow for your team and company, right? And some of the team, like Team Baldwin, Team Hopper, they are or they are using their capacity very well. It's maybe because they are using the second shift or some other uh, things they did for their plant, like they are fully use their capacity. Let's take a look here. Is it really? It's in the plant information. So this is a very important page here. It's listed all the product that each team produce. So and also their units sold, whether they have inventory left over or not, and how much inventory they have, things like that, and the size, price, and then this is the page that really your team need to spend time on it. So here I just want to point out a couple of things. Number one, so from this chart, you can see some of the team actually are introducing new product. Like Team Fairies introduced this one. Probably they retired one. It's supposed to be 5, but anyway, you can see what other teams are introducing new product. Like this Team Avon, introducing this new one, and then Team Jasper is actually retiring their product. So you can find those informations here. Next one I want to point out is second shift overtime. For the second shift, so first shift production capacity is the size of the factory. So if the capacity, if you are using second shift labor, the labor cost will be 150% of the first shift labor cost. So it's more costly to have second shift, but it could be worth it if you can sell your product, right? And here the automation, I want to show you guys. Some of the product you have the low automation, some of them have a high. So what is the automation? So in automation is means the amount of a man labor, man labor you do. So low number means you have a low automation. That means mostly you using the labor, and if a high means you probably use a lot of machine that have a more production, things like that. So one tip in automation, so you need to increase the automation of low end to 6, traditional to 5, and the rest to 4. Why? Because the low end you need to low end product you need to produce more, and then you want it faster, and then for the more quantity, right? So uh, but it's your team's decision that if you want to really have those automation high or low for certain product. Okay. Next one is the plant utilization. You can see some of the teams utilize the like 6%, 60%, and 80%. Then your team need to pay attention. You really need to fully utilize your plant because you invested, and then if you don't use it, it depreciates, and then your company will lose money. Like a team Chester and Team Ferris, you guys and also Jasper probably need to pay attention to your plant utilization. And at the same time, you can also see some teams have over 100 production. That is totally okay. The plant utilization is the best between 140 to 180 to reach the maximum productivity. Okay. All right. And next one is okay. Okay, so now we are coming to the each segment. For the traditional segment, this part is very important. Traditional customer buying criteria. You can see traditional segment, people are paying more attention to the ages, about 2 years, and then that's very important, right? And also the price is between 19 to 29. And Team Irvine is selling a lot of product here in this market segment, right? But however, Team Irvine, you probably need to pay attention because you still have those potential to sell, but you only sell this much. Then other teams is taking advantage of what the potential that you guys did not meet, right? So in here, you can see this product Dell is out of the circle. So it's very how to say, you guys need to pay attention because within the perceptual map, you need to within the circle, then you have the better sales in that market. So remember the 4 P's in the marketing. It is a product, price, promotion, and place, right? So your team need to pay attention to the price of the product that is outside of the if the price is outside of the segment range, will result in drop in demand. Why? Because if the price is too high, the customer will not purchase the product since they cannot afford it. And if the price is too low, customer may think something is not right about the product, right? So that's why those teams that your price do you meet within this range. So need to pay close attention. Here I want to point out the age, right? So in this market segment, age is very important, 2 years. But some of the teams have the 3 years and things like that, then it will make your team difficult to sell. Next is sales budget and promotion budget. You can see some of the teams have pretty high budget, some of team pretty low budget. I would let you guys to discuss how much. If it's too much promotion budget, it may not work. That you know may just negative cash flow because it's too much of your budget. And also, if it's too low, you may not be able to reach all the customers. It's the ways for your team to make sure to reach the highest customer awareness with lower budget and sales budget. But it's up to your team to decide what budget you guys want to use. But again, too high or too low are not good. Now in the low end segment, and again, pay attention to this part, the customer buying criteria. So low end segment customers, they pay attention more about the price, right? So that's why you need to see that actually the reason why Hue can sell a lot is because their price is not too high, and this is and also the accessibility, customer awareness, everything else are within the range. So you can see those two products are out of the circle. So Team Garrett and Team Ferris need to pay attention to these two products. So again, if the product price is $5 above or below the range, we'll have no demand in that segment. So for those teams, you need to fully assess what is going on with your price, why you cannot sell, okay? Because no customer will be interested in buying that product. Okay, now high end. For high end customer, just think about those group of segment. I mean, the customers think about like they only want something. They want something like a high end, like a technology focused, and then they want to change very fast, right? Those are those group of customers, and then you can see the positioning. It is need between 10.7 to 9.3 at the same time age is 0 years because they constantly want good product to come out and change the new things. So as you can see, those two products like Team Jasper and Team Irvine, pay attention to those two products. Again, the performance and size and age are important 3 factors for this group of high-end customers. So when you make decisions, pay attention to those. And also the Team Digby, Airy, and Irvine. Make sure that yes, they have a lot of potential, and then you don't want those sales goes to other teams if you want to focus on high-end customers. So same thing for performance, and again performance focus on service life, which is MTBF here. Again, focus on these areas and the other things too, like positioning and things like that. Size. So those teams need to pay attention to your product because it's out of the line, right? Okay. The positioning is very important. Okay. Now let's go to market share. So in market share, you can see that a lot of teams focusing on the traditional and high end. Oh, again. So if you come here, you can see the demand growth rate. What your team need to do is to calculate actually how much total market size will be in 2023, and use that number, increase the number, and then calculate how much your team is planning to sell in this market segment. It's the same for other market segment as well. You can see. Okay. If we keep going, next one is a perceptual map. For the perceptual map, there are 5 circles indicating 5 different market segment. It's like a low end, traditional, performance, high end, and size. And then as round, each round it will shift to the right corner down, because the customers always want a good product with lower price and higher quality. So again, it's moving to the down to the right side. So in this perceptual map, you probably can find your team, some product are out of circle or not at the ideal spot. What is the ideal spot is when your team hit at the ideal spot, it makes the most sales. That's where customers want the most product be. Okay, so this is, okay, last one. On this page, customer modules, I want you guys to focus on the numbers of the employees. It shows how many employees each firm have, and also first shift, do they have second shift, and also the turnover rate. Turnover rate is very important. You don't want to train your employee over and over again, because it's wasting time, and also will cost a lot of money to train your employees. So make sure, do you pay your employee enough? Do you give them training? Do you give them compensation and recruitment, retention? Those are very important factors your team need to pay attention. Okay, so this is the debriefing for Industry 1. Again, don't feel bad if your team did not perform well for the practice round, because it will because this just practice, and I hope you guys can learn some more learned things from my and Dr. Panel's video already, so that you guys can know should know where to what other things need to look for in the report. So this is the debriefing video. If you guys interested in, please watch another the Industry 2 as well. I can explain things as well. So okay, good luck to your teams.